let's bring in Thane Rosenbaum, a distinguished professor at Touro University. Okay, Thane, I was thinking about this. You've got an investigation launched by the congressional branch, and going out saying, you in the executive branch, we'd like to talk to you. Is that the biggest problem here?
Well, Bob, remember, the Select Committee on January 6th never even issued a subpoena on Pence. He wouldn't have complied with the subpoena, but they didn't choose to subpoena him. This is being done by the Special Counsel who's been appointed to investigate the January 6th. What this is interesting is that normally you think of the vice president as being in the executive branch. And because he's in the executive branch, he could invoke the president's executive privilege to say, I'm not going to say any of the conversations that were private and candid that I had with the president because he has executive privilege. But Pence appears to be making a more novel argument, which is, guess what? I'm not only in the executive branch, but I also am in the legislative branch. I am the president of the Senate. I can break a tie if there's a tie. And guess what? On January 6th, I was the one responsible for overseeing the electoral vote count. So I'm a member of the Senate, and under the speech and debate clause of Article 1, Section 6, you can't subject me to law enforcement, and you can't even question me about what I said or did on that day because it was being done in my official capacities as a legislator. But remember, he's not elected to be serving in the legislature. That is just a constitutional duty. The courts have never weighed in on this, Bob.
So I would have gotten that wrong on the exam. I would have gotten partial credit, the justification, like the different branches, but I really blew that one.
Nina, you know that I would have given him credit anyway.
I love that you called me that. Thank you. But also, I mean, Thane, okay, so as you said, it's a novel approach, and you know, that's what a lot of the press is saying. This is not typical. Do you think it is a smart approach to get out of having to serve this subpoena?
It is. I think it's a stronger privilege, Katrina. I do. Remember, the executive privilege is also something that has been sort of murky, and I predict, since we've heard executive privilege so much over the last 2 years on your show, that eventually the Supreme Court is going to weigh in on it. But the speech and debate clause is a much stronger privilege, in part because it's in the Constitution. It's Article 1, Section 6, right, where it speaks directly to what the Founding Fathers said, which is, we are not going to punish a legislator or intimidate a legislator by subjecting him or her to an arrest so he or she would vote in a certain way. We're going to say that if you're doing the work of the legislature, you're immune even from civil liability. So it's a novel approach, Katrina, but it's also one that I think is actually stronger. President Trump will probably invoke the executive privilege anyway. He's going to say, you can't talk to my vice president. He's my vice president. So he's going to invoke that anyway, but you're probably going to see the Pence people invoke this speech and debate clause privilege.
All right. Thane Rosenbaum, always great to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you both.